Welcome back to the MaxLawCon podcast. I'm Tyson. Jim is on assignment in Michigan today, but today I am here with one of my favorite people at Filevine. I don't want Logan to hear that. I can't say you're my favorite person. I can't choose my favorites, but you're one of my favorite people at Filevine. Erik Bermudez, what's going on?
Hey, Tyson. Good morning. Nothing much. Appreciate the time this morning and glad to be here with you.
So you are the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. I think I've got that right. So what does that even mean for people that are watching and listening?
As a software company, we realize that we are never going to be everything to all people. That's just impossible. No software or software company is. So at the end of the day, I am and my team, we are responsible for building great relationships with third-party services companies or other software companies in the legal marketplace to bring together a more holistic solution that can more broadly solve the problems that legal professionals encounter day to day. So I go out, build relationships with these outside companies that really mesh well from a culture, a mission, and a product perspective to deliver a better holistic solution to end users. So that's what I'm responsible for.
I got to say, so I started using Filevine, I think, in 2018. I was flirting with Filevine and probably as far back as 2016, 2017 because of fanboy Ryan McKean and Ryan Sargent. They're both, power users when it comes to Filevine.
Great.
It was really, yeah, they're fantastic. But the growth that you all have had over the last 3, 4 years, last 2 years has been amazing. I mean, I don't know how you're able to sustain this growth. It's crazy.
It's it's a wonderful issue to deal with, and it's a great problem to continue to solve. And yeah, we've been very, very blessed. A lot of companies suffered through the pandemic, and the pandemic last year was a very hard time for many individuals, companies, and families out there. And so I'm not putting it lightly in any way, but when you think about what Filevine does in terms of allowing remote work and allowing any legal professional to maintain team connectivity, team communication, and their work, really helped us. And so it was a really interesting dynamic in the market. And fortunately, we were one of the companies that we were propelled forward by what the pandemic did. So yeah, we've been very blessed. We're growing very quickly. We're excited about that. And maintaining it and sustaining it is another thing that we're definitely on top of. But yeah, it's exciting times for sure.
What's interesting I find about the thing that I find interesting about Filevine is that your communication with customers is crazy. Like you all are constantly developing new products with not products, but new features within Filevine. And you do add new products from time to time as well. But like, for example, you added Lead Docket not too long ago. But like you all every week, you've got your Viner Weekly, you're putting out updates every single week. Like there are not many software companies in this world that put out updates every single week. And then you've got these massive, I don't know what you call them, but like these quarterly things that you put out where like you do these massive updates and let everyone know about it. I mean, how do you like, that's gotta be a massive undertaking, right?
It is, but we see that as super important, right? Obviously, when you're making changes daily, and no joke, I mean, our developer, we have a team of over 100 developers that are consistently working on the product hour in and hour out. We're constantly obviously gathering feedback. And so when you're making that many tweaks, it's wonderful, right? But the challenge is a couple of things. Number one, how do you communicate it? Number two is how do you ensure that customers are aware of it and then adopt it? And that third one is the most important, right? Because if you don't know it's there, then how in the world is it going to end up benefiting you as a customer and end user? So we feel like we have to consistently be communicating via multiple channels to make sure that people can understand how is the product innovating to continually solve my biggest problems. And so, yeah, whether it's emails or webinars or every quarter we have that session called Win-Win or WNWN, which stands for What's New, What's Next. And so that's another way. LegalX, the Filevine Technology and Legal Conference is coming up. And so that's the key is finding multiple ways to communicate out to allow our customers to be on top of the most new features that are being released.
I'm embarrassed to say that I did not get win-win out of that acronym. What's new, what's next is what was always in my brain, not win-win. That's cool. I
That's
did
right.
not know that. That's really cool. But it's a good segue, and I'm gonna chew up how you put it. You put it really eloquently before we jumped on this call about basically the software is like a part of the attorney's practice from start to finish for the day. And I know that that's not how you put it, but you can put it however the hell you want. Like, talk about that a little bit though. How Filevine is really kind of part of like it's part of my day every single day, whether it's from reporting or actually doing the legal work. So you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
I'll call this the technology black hole of current society. If you take any professional, whether it's in legal or medical or finance, there are many technologies. It's not hard to find one where the professional can say, it's a black hole, meaning I do all this work and enter this data and put in my reports and use it day in and day out, but nothing comes back at me to benefit me, right? And I think it's, there's a lot of reasons for that. But even in today, I mean, count how many applications any legal professional uses in any given day. You have your email, and then you have your, you're managing your documents, and then you got to go to Word, and there's probably a dozen, maybe even 2 dozen applications. Here at Filevine, we believe that there is a better way to get your most important work done. And we call that kind of this idea of the Filevine continuum, where a legal professional can come in the morning and they hop into Filevine and they have everything that they need to get their most important work done. They can report on it. They can be held accountable on it. They can communicate with their teams. They can understand exactly where their cases and their work, where the status is, and they know what the next steps are at any given time. And they end their day on Filevine. So whether it's managing your intake and your leads, your documents, communicating with clients, handling your reporting on the back end, we want to control the day from start to finish. And so any legal professional doesn't feel like they have to handle the 2 dozen applications, jump through the chasms of technology. And the most important part is making sure that the technology spits benefits back at you as an end user. It's not this technology black hole where you enter, and there's no love given it, given the end user back, right? So that's our whole idea is to make sure that and we're not there yet, by the way. Filevine, we have a lot of work to do, but we're definitely well on our way to make sure that your day starts with Filevine as a legal professional and your day ends with Filevine as a legal professional. And we see that's going to be the future.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, I bet I would need at least 5 more employees if I were using a different program. It is really great, and the things that you will add on a regular basis. I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm gonna fax over. I'm just gonna use this as an example. It's a random example. It's the first thing I can think of. Let's say that I need to fax over a demand to an insurance company because some of these insurance companies don't use email still, so you got to actually fax over a demand. I can inside a file line, right? I'm in the client file. I can click a button or a few buttons, right? And send a fax from inside a file line. I don't have to download it, upload it to another program, click the freaking fax button, right? Make sure you get the confirmation. No, I do all that inside of Filevine. And then let's say that I want to text and email the client. I do all that inside of Filevine. I send a text message. Hey, just so you know, just sent the demand on your case. If I want to send an email, hey, just send a demand on your case. All that I didn't leave Filevine, but in other programs, because I've done it before, I had to, okay, go get on my phone, and I don't want the clients to have my cell phone, right? But you have to if you're using another program, or you have to use like a company line or something like that. So you go to whatever that other platform is, you send the text message to the client, you go to that other platform that sends the faxes, you send the fax, you do all that within Filevine. And I'm just giving you one freaking example. You all have, and that's whenever I started with Filevine, you all didn't have all that, right? You had the text messaging, you had the email component, you did not have the fax function, and that's something that you have added, which is just an amazing feature, by the way. But and what's great is you all keep adding things. You just keep adding, and there are still some wants that I have, and my guess is at a certain point you will get to them. But I think that's the point. Like, you are constantly developing, and I think it's a great lesson for people that are running law firms too. Like, constantly get better, like constantly improve. Don't stop at where you are right now. You're never going to be to that end point. You got to keep moving forward and keep doing that. So I know you were talking about all these developers and everything like that, but how do how do you get from these wants and these needs from from customers over to the developers? Like, how do you bridge that gap? I mean, do you all have like team meetings to go over this stuff? Like, I just wonder how you bridge that gap though.
Yeah, it's a combination of many different factors. But before I get to that, one point that I wanted to hit on that you mentioned, which I think is very interesting, is we feel like in legal, and many industries are actually going through this once in a generation shift, but especially right now in legal, we're experiencing this huge shift in the marketplace where people are starting to uncover and see the benefits of going to a cloud-based platform, right? If you have something on premise, if you have your server and your software in an IT closet in your office somewhere, how confident is that team around their cybersecurity strategy, right? How confident is that team that their software is getting the most up-to-date software and releases every single day? It just doesn't happen in an on-premise client server model. It can't. And so to hit your point, that's why we feel like this generational shift that's occurring in legal right now is so important, because all the other industries, they get every single day these pushes to make sure that customers have the latest and greatest on cybersecurity to protect the law firm from threats, right? That they have the latest features. And now, because it's web-based, with Filevine and the architecture, you just get it, right? You don't have to pay for this stuff. You just get these features and they're released. And there's some things that are being released, like I mentioned, on a daily basis. So that's
Can I talk about
quick, yeah, please go ahead.
Something really quick, because all right, so two things with that. First of all, there is a fellow guild member that was moving away from a server. Before he moved away from the server, he got hacked, and so he was part of a ransomware. So it's a real problem. This was like 2 weeks ago, right? So it was a big real problem. The second part of that is, whenever I was testing out Filevine now years ago, there's all these other programs that have limits on documents and storage and like all that. And I remember talking to someone, I don't know who it was, like it was the sales rep at Filevine. And I'm like, okay, well, what's my limit when it comes to like document storage? And like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, how much can I put into a file? Like, what are my limits? They're like, they're like, honestly, I mean, there might be a limit. I've never seen anybody reach it. I have no idea what it is. And I'm thinking, like, come on, like you're gonna try to get me, you're gonna try to gouge me after the fact, right? Like, no, like you can just put whatever you need for that file into the file, and you don't have to worry about, how many gigabytes. You don't have to worry about, okay, there's a limit on this file, so I need a separate Dropbox or Google Drive file. I honestly thought that the guy was lying to me. And no, it's just amazing what you all do with your storage. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We feel like that should be the last thing a legal professional team should worry about is, oh, are we reaching 98% capacity for a file and video storage? Don't worry about that. We feel like we have chosen, we are backed and hosted on Amazon Web Services, AWS, and, the largest Fortune, some of the largest companies in the world have them as partners. And we have it set up to where that's the last thing that one of our customers should worry about is storage. So you're right. I mean, load it up. It'll be very, very fun day to see at some point which customer of ours out of the almost 3,000 customers now is going to reach a storage limit, but we are far away from that at this point. So no, you're right.
I'll do my best to try. I'll see if I can do it.
Cybersecurity, Tyson, you mentioned something that's important. That's one of the things that's never important to the law firm until a breach occurs. Then all of a sudden, it is the top of the priority list. I want our customers to know that is probably our number one concern right now is cybersecurity. There are not many things that you and I can talk about that can bring an entire law firm to its knees within minutes. But cybersecurity and a massive breach or a hack is one of those things, right? It can bring Filevine down. So we have a whole team dedicated to making sure that we are the most secure and the safest platform out there, That is our number one priority. Obviously, the product and client communications and delivering innovations through the product and helping law firms get from A to Z and be great, all that's great. But cybersecurity absolutely is one of our top priorities. So, yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
All right, so I'm gonna circle back to my question because I derailed us a little bit because I want to know because I think it'll be beneficial to the lawyers listening to this and watching this. Like, how do you extract how do you get the feedback from your customers to improve the product so much? Because it really is impressive how you are. And I feel like it's like a massive commercial for you all, and I don't mean it that way. But I really like it's amazing how you get information from your customers and then you go improve the product because like Ryan McKean and I will be talking about something like we really wish Filevine had that. And when they were like, oh, well, it's in the works. Like it's something that you all are working on and it's coming soon. So how do you do it?
Great question. So there are multiple steps to this process, and the first one is simply gathering the feedback because we don't know, the exact experience, right? And so we really do rely on a multiple different channels to make sure that we're getting the right feedback. So whether it's you calling your account representative and sharing that feedback, we capture it and we track it and we put it in this massive portal that helps us prioritize what those requests are. But it's not always about requests. We have a product team that is always focused on the future as well and saying, is our product going to be preparing the law firm for in 10 years or 5 years from now? And what does that law firm look like? So it's clients giving us feedback, but you and I both know that sometimes if a client is demanding a specific feature, we have to take a step back and say, is that really the right feature? Let's discuss the problem that you're encountering, and there may even be a better solution than what the customer. And so that's why we always view the customer to vendor relationship for Filevine as a true partnership, right? Because we push each other. We push each other to say, how can we make the law firm better? How can we both make the product better? And we always want success, right? And maybe there are better ways that clients and our teams, the product teams, can come up with. So that's number one, is just having multiple different channels, whether it's digital through Facebook, or sometimes we have a little thing that says click here to submit requests, or forums. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can make sure that we're in tune with customer needs, and a lot of them is just calling and saying, how's the experience? How can we do better for you? We take that feedback, we get it into the process to where now we have a team that monitors and manages all that feedback and then prioritizes it. We wish we could do everything and say, hey, everything's going to be released in 2 weeks, but that's impossible. So we have a team that's focused on prioritizing in terms of what's going to make the greatest impact to the customers and the customer base. And then we work on it, and we have a series of sprints that our teams are focused on. And so that's what gives us the overlapping sprints, is what gives us the consistent drips to innovation for our product for a very, very long time in the future. So it's a very lengthy process. It's never going to be perfect, but we feel like we have it dialed in to where if you share something, we are always going to be able to capture it, prioritize it. We're going to hear it, maybe, push back and say, is there a better way to the software today that you're just simply not using? Let's have that discussion. And if not, if it truly is something that we think is going to benefit the customer to help them make them great, then we're going to put it in that pipeline process.
I love it. So I'll give it a prime example of how you all really care. So early on, whenever I wanted to learn more and be able to like basically get best practices from other lawyers that have been using it. So I created this Slack group, this Filevine Mastermind Slack group. And I was a little worried that you all be like, you got to take the name Filevine out of it, and I even put the logo in there. I was a little concerned about that. And you all embraced it because I added a bunch of people that I know were like power users to the Slack group, and you all were like, hey, can we get an invite to it? And next thing you know, there's a bunch of Filevine employees inside the Slack group answering questions about different features and how to use things. Ryan Anderson is even in there, and he communicates a lot. It's kind of crazy, like he's in there answering questions, and you all. It's really cool. It's just really cool how you all do things like that. And I do think that you all are able to get some feedback from that group as well, just because there are a lot of power users in there. I do want to shift gears.
100%.
Yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit because you were talking about how basically your day can start with Filevine and your day can end with Filevine, right? And I'm shortening it a little bit, but there was something I was telling you about that I think is really awesome about Filevine too, is that you all have opened it up. You've got an open API where I guess it's not open. You've got to register, but you can still get API access. And my software guy says it. He's like, it's the best API he's ever seen. It's really just great the way it's just nice and clean and easy to deal with. But what's great about it is like there's some softwares, case management systems that don't play nice with other softwares. That's not Filevine. It's really cool, whether it's through Zapier or through just using the API. You all communicate really, really well with other softwares. And I don't know if that was something that you all intentionally did, that just something that just kind of happened, or but will you talk a little bit about how Filevine does play nicely with other softwares?
Yeah, you bet. And it kind of goes to when I opened up this discussion and described my role. That's exactly it, right? Is we realize that we are never going to be everything to all people. Inherently, there's always going to be a need for Filevine to communicate with other software, and that's okay. We envision Filevine as being the core operating platform of the law firm, right? So it's the heart that manages the documents, the communication, the tasks. So that's where folks are going to live the majority of the time. But there are other software companies that do things better than Filevine, right? Are we ever going to do X? Maybe, maybe not. But for right now, if we're not going to do it and it's not on the roadmap, let's work with them to see if we can build an integration that, again, helps the customer be successful. And that's our biggest priority, is helping the customer be great. And if that means that Filevine has to communicate with other software, then that's okay. And that's perfectly fine. We believe it's like the plumbing to water. Everyone should have the access to, clean drinking water, right, in the entire world. Well, we feel like the API is the plumbing to allow that software communication to happen between Filevine and anyone out there that chooses. So I'm not going to say it's incredibly easy, the click of the fingers, all of a sudden Filevine can. There is some setup involved, but you're right. If one can understand the API, and if one can understand the problem that they're trying to solve with the desired integration, really there's no limits. There's always some tweaking, and we work with a couple of good integration engines. Zapier is one of them that we work with. Workato is another one that we work with. So there are a couple of integration marketplaces that we are already involved in and a part of, to help our customers say, okay, well, let's go through Zapier, let's go through Workato. If that's not there, our open API is available to all customers, so they can get in there and they can build their own integrations with the help of our team, obviously the help of the other software team that they want to integrate with. We can typically get on the phone and pound out an integration that solves their biggest problem. So yeah, it's something we firmly believe in, is we want to be open, we want to play nice. Again, we feel like that's just an effort to say, it doesn't matter. We don't want to hoard the data. We don't want to hold the data hostage. We never believe Filevine is going to be everything. So with that in mind, let's be open, because our top priority is helping the end user and customer be successful.
I love it. And I guess I should definitely bring this up. I should have brought it up before. Filevine is the co-title sponsor of MaxLawCon 2021. We're super, super excited about that. So are you going to be in St. Louis for the conference, or is someone else coming out?
No, I'll be there. And we're proud to be a sponsor. We appreciate the work that you do, obviously, and the whole the whole community for the group. So we're excited to be a sponsor, and we're thrilled to be there with you.
I love it. The reason I was asking is, what are you looking forward to when it comes to the conference?
I think the thing I love most, it sounds simple and overly simplistic, rubbing shoulders with people, incredibly smart people that understand things way better and way more than I do. I mean, you gather a group that is really focused on the best of the best from a technology perspective and a legal perspective. And I'm excited to come and rub shoulders and learn. So I just appreciate you holding this and your team holding this. Again, excited to be a part of it and go rub shoulders and learn from the best and the brightest in the industry.
Maybe simple, but that's what everybody says. Everybody says the exact same thing. People just ready to be around people again. So you were yes, you were at the last MaxLawCon or MaxLaw event. It was the MaxLaw Zapathon. You were at the last one we've had. So the one last in-person one. So you will be at the last one we had and the next one we had. So we're pretty
You
excited.
know, and one thing, this may be funny to you, but when we were there in Arizona, I think that was in January 2020, right, Tyson? And so
Yeah, it
I
was right
remember,
before.
I don't know who typed up the agenda, but someone typed up the agenda, and right there on the agenda, there was a quote that's really stuck with me. And I think it said something around um, something to the tune of perfection is progress. Perfection isn't an end state, or something like that, right? Just meaning, look, we're never going to achieve perfection. This whole thing's a journey that's a consistent progress is the key. And anyway, that holds true at Filevine. We feel like we're perfection's never going to be reached, but progress always is going to be reached, and that's what we're pushing and striving for. And I feel like that's a part of what you hold as well.
I'm looking to see if I can find that quote really quick. I can't find it quick enough. I don't know. That sounds like a Jim Hacking quote is what that sounds like, but
That must
that's
have been something he typed.
I bet Jim Hacking quote. I love it. It's really interesting that you remember that. I don't remember even seeing an agenda. So it's great that you remember that. Very cool. All right, so I do need to wrap things up. Before I do, I want to remind everyone, those of you that are watching this, you obviously know about it because you're in the Facebook group. But those of you listening, make sure you get involved in the Facebook group. We have a lot of great activity every single day. If you're interested in a more high-level conversation, join us at maxlawguild.com, join the guild. And then if you want to go to the conference, I keep reminding you all, get your tickets because we're going to sell out, maxlawcon.com. All right, Erik, so I did not tell you this. You might remember this, but we always ask our guests to give a tip or a hack of the week. It could be a podcast, it could be a book, it could be anything, it could be a website. Do you have one for us? I'm putting you on the spot.
Ooh, that is a great question, and I would say Good to Great. Good to Great by Jim Collins is a phenomenal book. It goes through probably 10 tips of, look, there's a huge amount of companies that are good, but there's very, very few companies that are great. And I think there are some business practices and principles that Jim Collins goes through that can help any business, but specifically a law firm. It absolutely applies to the law firm of things that you can implement and deploy to make sure that you're part of the great group and not just part of the really good group. Surprisingly, the separation between those two groups is quite large. So I'd invite everyone to check out that book. I love it.
I do love that book. He has that one, and then he's got the next one. Is Good to Great the second in those two? Because he has two books that are very similar. The first one is where he compares the different companies. Is that the Good Great? Is that Good to Great? Because I can't remember. It's been so long since I read those two. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
Good to Great definitely. He compares, okay, what good companies do and what great companies do. I know which book you're referring to. I can't remember if it came after or before. I want to say
Okay.
it came before, and then Good to Great is the more thorough of the two. But
Yeah.
yeah, Good to Great's a great one. I love it.
I think it's a phenomenal book. That's a good suggestion. So my tip actually has to do with something that we do with Filevine. And so we use Lob. So if you go to lob.com, lob.com. So we've automated the sending of some of our letters. So with a click of a button, it actually in Filevine, I click a button in Filevine and it mails it out in Lob. So and we don't touch anything else. We don't then take that document, edit it, print it, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, put it in the mail. We just click a button and it mails it out for us. So it's freaking phenomenal. It saves us a ton of time. So lob.com, it's very similar to casemail.us, but I think Lob's a little bit more expensive, but it definitely has a lot more features. So I highly recommend it. Erik, thank you so much for coming on, man. I'm sure I'll talk to you before the conference, but I look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, Tyson. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
You too, man. See ya.
Yep. Bye-bye.